Hello and welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. For this episode, I'm going to talk about Disney Pixar's Elemental. The reason why I want to talk about this movie because a lot of people have been talking about this movie, saying that this is obviously one of Pixar's least successful movies, although it is considered to be a sleeper hit. But at the time of its release, it was considered to be one of Pixar's most disappointing films, despite some good reviews. Despite the good reviews that the critics gave to Elemental, I had no interest in seeing this movie at all. Now, the reason why I had no interest in seeing this movie at all, a couple reasons. One, the direction of where the Walt Disney Company is going, most notably to the audience. Plus, some of the choices that most Disney projects are going with. And my second reason is that Elemental tried too hard to be Zootopia, in my opinion. And this is more in the world building category, because if you really think about it, both Elemental and Zootopia, despite the different characters and of course different studios, both Elemental and Zootopia all had a world building story, just to like give the audience this idea of how each world works for the elementals and for the anthropomorphic animals. Now for Elemental came out in 2023, and it was directed by Peter Sohn. And for those of you who don't know, Peter Sohn has worked with Pixar before. He voiced Emil in Ratatouille, Squishy in Monsters University, and of course he played a robot cat named Socks in Disney Pixar's Lightyear, basically the Buzz Lightyear movie for the Toy Story movies. Now for Elemental, was inspired by Peter Sohn's idea of whether fire or water could ever connect or not, and I think that's a pretty cool. Well, actually, the inspiration for this movie was based on Peter Sohn's youth, growing up as the son of immigrants in New York City during the 1970s, highlighting the city's distinct cultural and ethnic diversity, while the story is inspired by romantic films such as Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Moonstruck, and Amelie. The production team conducted research for spending many hours watching point of view city tours on YouTube like Venice and Amsterdam for inspiration, with animation tools were utilized to design the visual effects and appearance of each character, particularly its main characters. And the production on Elemental lasted for 7 years, 7 years. So that would mean that the production started. That means the production would have started in 2016. So the same year when Zootopia came out. So the idea for Elemental started in 2016. So that means the people involved with the Disney Pixar's Elemental probably saw Zootopia and also got the idea of it as well. Most notably the world building. So basically, there was both in the studio and at the filmmakers' homes on an estimated budget of $200 million. Composer Thomas Newman composed the score, and this is also Thomas Newman's fourth collaboration with Pixar. He collaborated with Pixar on the first two Finding Nemo movies, and of course, WALL-E, to which Thomas Newman was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and they were both for Best Original Score in Finding Nemo and WALL-E. Now, as for the film debuted out of competition as the closing film at the 76th Cannes Film Festival on May 27, 2023, and was released in the United States on June 16th. And And of course, I mean, the film itself got good reviews. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, they weren't great or critically acclaimed. I mean, there were good reviews, but not as critically acclaimed as some of the many of the recent Pixar movies that came out in the past. But despite that, the film opened below expectations, and of course, later down the line, the film was ultimately considered by analysts to be a sleeper hit and grossed $496.4 million worldwide. Okay, and I'm gonna go off topic for a second. For those of you who have listened to my previous episode on the Oscars and Razzies, which was season 6, episode 4, I mentioned that Elemental grossed over $500 million, which was about $511.4 million. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, that's not the case. So it went back down to $496.4 million. Sounds like somebody went on Wikipedia and typed in $511 million on it just to fool people around and telling them that, hey, Disney Pixar's Elemental made $500 million. I guess somebody screwed up on that analyst for going on Wikipedia and typing that in, if you know what I'm saying. So, but anyway, Elemental made about $496.4 million worldwide, and is considered to be a sleeper hit. It is nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature Film, and nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Feature Film as well. However, it would lose the Golden Globe out to The Boy and the Heron, which was directed by Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Now, to me, I didn't expect the film to be that good at all. Most knowing because of my interest, like I'm losing a little interest on many of these Disney films. Most notably the new ones too, because of where Disney is going in the direction and what audience they want to go after. Sure, yeah, the teaser trailer was interesting, although the only thing was, I mean, yeah, cool of an idea for Elemental is, knowing that it focuses on earth, air, fire, and water. It didn't spark me. So I didn't watch it. I didn't see this movie. I didn't watch this movie. I didn't see the movie in theaters at all. So then I got curious, and after it was nominated for a Golden Globe and Oscar, knowing the fact that, hey, there's some people who like this, there's some people who like this movie, some people did not like this movie at all. So I decided to watch it. So I pull up Disney Plus and watched it twice. First time around I didn't really care for it, but second time around I was like, okay, it's actually not too bad. So with an element of surprise, yes, Disney Pixar's Elemental, to me, it was not bad. I didn't think it was great, but it wasn't. But it was not a bad movie. It's not that bad to say. Like Elemental, I get where this movie was trying to go for, but to me, it was just it was an okay film. It tried too hard to be Zootopia, as it was Disney Pixar's Zootopia. But the only thing is, Zootopia is his own thing, and so is Elemental. Elemental was trying too hard to be Zootopia. But anyway, nevertheless, let me break down the movie. So the movie opens up with fire elements. Bernie and Cinder Lumen immigrate to Element City, xenophobia from other classical elements. Now, the other classical elements are basically earth, water, and air. And of course, and this does go into a little bit of the territory where Bernie and Cinder, who are basically fire elements, they don't like water. They don't like water. In fact, you hear Bernie in an angry voice saying water. Basically, what's going on is that Bernie does not like water. He hates water, and of course, if anybody knows the whole water and fire thing, knowing the fact that water extinguishes the fire. That's what it does. That's what it really does. But this comes in at that moment when Bernie and Cinder were basically walking around Element City, and of course this was basically it was an accidental thing because they were riding the subway with all the other elements, and it was a bit of a bumpy ride. The ride was so bumpy for a little bit that one of the water elements accidentally spilled water on top of Bernie's wife for a little bit. Part of her face was extinguished, but Thankfully, Bernie pulled out this piece of wood, like a piece of wood or stick, from his suitcase, and gives it to his wife just to eat. That way, that way her flame can spark again. Now, obviously, you probably know the whole thing of fire and wood. You know, the wood burns the fire. You kind of get the point. This gets Bernie to say water. Not only the fact that Bernie hates water. So basically, you see that hateful side of Bernie. You see Bernie hating water. Although you kind of see that, right? It's like Bernie does not like water. That's the whole that like which is the whole point of his character. Like Bernie doesn't like water. But once they get into like the neighborhood side of things in Elemental City, um they struggle to get a place to live, knowing the fact that there were multiple apartment openings where it's asking for rent, where like each sign's gotta say for rent, but unfortunately the fire elements get shut out by all the other elements. No, I believe because of the fact that they're afraid of the fire elements, but also, let's be honest, like the fire elements they were traveling from another place, so they immigrate. So Bernie and Cinder immigrate. You get that bit of a xenophobia idea to it, like xenophobia is basically the fear or dislike of anything which is perceived as being foreign or strange. So technically, the fire elements, Bernie and Cinder, they're basically immigrants, and that's what director Peter Song was basically going for as one of the inspirations for this movie. Because, as I mentioned, the film draws inspiration from Peter Song's youth growing up as the son of immigrants in New York City during the 1970s, highlighting the city's distinct cultural and ethnic diversity. Now continuing on with the film, Bernie and Cinder gave birth to their daughter Ember, and obviously this is also hinted in at the start of the movie, where Cinder is pregnant with Ember. And Bernie, Cinder, and Ember, they set up their blue flame, which represents their traditions, and start their own convenience store called the Fireplace. Obviously, you kind of get the point. You get the place. You get it. And several years later, Birdie intends to retire and give Ember the store once she can control her fiery temper. And that's one thing I kind of liked about this movie, is basically like part of this movie is Ember trying to control her temper. And that's one of the few things I saw in this movie, like where Ember is trying to control her temper, and she realizes this too. Like you could definitely, and one of the reasons why you see that is because whenever Ember is getting irritated by customers, she turns purplish. Like her fire turns purple for a little bit, like some sort of purplish color, and she explodes just to literally blow off steam, if you know what I'm saying. Boy, this movie, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I feel like this movie is more of a punchline than 2019's Cats, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you get the point. You get the point. I'm gonna go off topic for a little bit. You kind of see this movie as a bit of a punchline, all because of the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. You kind of get the point. Writing wise, not story wise, but more of the writing, if you know what I'm saying, and character designs as well. Like Ember is just basically a flame of fire, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, one day when Burning allows Ember to run the shop on her own, she becomes overwhelmed by the customers and rushes to the basement just to blow off steam, or just basically flame on her, and just basically flame on. Oh my goodness. I mean, or just explodes. She basically explodes in the basement, and unfortunately, her fiery explosion breaks a water pipe, flooding the basement and summoning Wade Ripple, a water element and city inspector, who notes the faulty plumbing. Okay, Wade Ripple is a sappy water element who works as a city inspector living in Element City. And in terms of his density and movement, Wade is a lot heavier and his body is more fluid and wavy than Ember's body. So basically Ember is more light. Ember is lighter than Wade. Is that what is going on? Wow. So basically, Wade is a so. I mean, wow. Talk about a ripple effect. Talk about a ripple effect right here. But also Wade, he has his own. He's very emotional and cries a lot. And I'm gonna be honest with you, his crying is somewhat annoying at times, especially with his family, and I'm gonna get to that, and I will get to that soon. Yes, basically knowing the fact that he is a water element, water, tears, crying from tears. You get it. Wade is being played by Mamadou Achi, while while Ember Ember is being played by Leah Lewis, and they both get off to a rough start. If you know what I'm saying, if you know, well, they both get off to a rough start. Norman, or should I say, Ember gets off to an exploding start, um while Wade gets off to a wet start. If you know what I'm saying, but oh boy, but anyway, Wade is a water element and city inspector inspecting the water pipes at Ember's home, or should I say, her father's shop. Her father's shop. Talk about Inspector Fluid, if you know what I'm saying. And after Wade inspect the pipes, he literally goes to City Hall, and Ember chases him down to Element City just to get all the way to City Hall, because Ember attempts to stop Wade, all because Ember knows that this is her father's shop, and she doesn't want her father's shop to be shut down by a water element, and despite the pipes, even though it was Ember who blew off the pipes. So Wade files a report of his findings with his air element employer Gail Cumulus, who will have the fireplace shut down. And Ember Ember and Wade Ember and Wade, they go into this office, and because Wade was gonna have Ember just appeal this whole thing, but unfortunately Ember's temper gets in the way and literally burns down the place. And then there's this tree element who is basically putting all the files into into these glass tubes. You know, these glass tubes that literally sucks up all the files, and then they go to like certain locations within the office. Well, there's this guy who's basically an earth element, a tree earth element, and he just basically sits there. He sits there with a deadpan voice while Amber and Wade are trying to appeal until Amber explodes into a fiery rage. He's like, I guess I'm gonna have to go home early. Well, unfortunately for you, Amber, your place will be shut down within a week. So yes, unfortunately for him, so basically Ember's technically is her father's place. Like Ember's father's convenience store is gonna shut down. So what happens next is that Wade brings Ember to Cyclone Stadium to persuade Gale to reconsider the shutdown of her father's store. And at the stadium, Gale and Ember get into an argument of during the game about the store, and Gale is like, "Who cares about this store? Who cares about this store?" And then Ember's like, "I care about this store. I care about this store more than this whatever this sporting event is going on." And also, she throws a jab at the players because the players are definitely getting paid more at this point. I mean, I don't know what game it is. I'm pretty sure it's basically basketball, but with elements. and and of course, but of course, this leads up to a compromise where Wade sees one of the players all tired out, and Wade just literally creates a chant just to cheer this player on, and this gets the motivation up, and basically this player was able to win the game. But but anyway, after the game, Gale and Ember were able to come to a compromise with that after the whole ordeal. Wade mentions to Ember that, and of course outside, Wade mentions to Ember that he was investigating a leak in the city's canals before ending up at the fireplace, and suggests to Gale that he and Ember can track the source of the leak from the store, and Gale offers to forgive the violations as long as they find and seal the leak by the end of the week. Okay, so that's interesting. So basically, the plot of this movie is basically Ember and Wade trying to are spending time together in the city while trying to save a convenience store owned by Ember's father Bernie from a leak. So that's basically the plot of the movie. Okay, so it makes sense. So it makes sense. I hope there's no leak in the boat. By the way, forecast in Elemental City, cloudy with a chance of meatballs at 30%. There you go. No rain whatsoever. But anyway, all joking aside, Ember and Wade search the canals while also giving out their own chemistry. They both discover a hole in a dam that allows wave runoff from ships to flood the city's plumbing, so they close the hole with sandbags. There was a first wave of floodings, and Ember and Wade put sandbags to block the leak. So they were able to close the hole with sandbags. The two spend time together in the city and learn more about each other. And for the most part, it's actually pretty cool. I mean, Ember and Wade just having a conversation, basically your chemistry too. And to be honest, Ember and Wade's chemistry was a lot better than Aquaman and Mira. What I also like about Ember in this movie is that like she walks over, I like how Ember changes colors a little bit. Most notably during the scenes with during the moment where she walks over crystals and she changes color. Like she walks over a purple crystal, she turns purple. She walks over to a green one, she turns green. Even a red one as well, and I actually like that. I like how her fire element mixed with the crystals, and I actually like that moment. And I was wondering, why can't we see a little more of that? And to be honest, there's only one scene of that, and I only see that. And that's basically it. That's an interesting scene. Knowing the fact that, hey, even though Ember is basically fire element, she can still blend in with the crystals and change colors. That's actually that's a pretty cool moment. I want to see a little more of that. But of course, we even get a cool moment with Wade as he basically, runs on water like he's Dash and does the little, ripple effect or whatever it's called, sliding on the water, and of course, running and sliding on the water, creating a nice little ripple effect, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, Wade and Ember notice that the sandbags eventually fail, so Ember melts the sand into glass to form a sturdier seal. For the most part, it actually worked. Gale actually agreed to it, and Gale was like, "Hey, hey, the glass seal actually worked. Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty cool." That was basically I'm pretty sure it was after a second or third wave. I'm pretty sure it was after a second or third wave of that. So you kind of get the. So it was actually pretty cool idea to use glass. Although unfortunately, it doesn't last long. But other than that, Wade and Ember Ember brings Wade over to her father's convenience store, and then her father Bernie was like, "What the? Where's this water? Where did this water element come from?" And he was about to blame Wade for bursting the pipes, even though it was Ember's fault. But unfortunately, Ember and Wade came up with a lie, saying that, "Oh, no, Wade is a city food tester instead of a city inspector," because Bernie, Ember's father, doesn't know that Wade is a city inspector. So what the and so basically they came up. So basically Wade and Ember came up with a lie, knowing the fact that Wade is basically a food tester. So Bernie, Ember's father, gives gives Wade has Wade try out some of his fire rocks or whatever they're called, and you can see the snide remark and smirky and devilish look on Bernie because he knows that Wade won't pass the test on inspecting the food, but Wade is like, it's okay, I like spicy food. And Wade sounds like SpongeBob SquarePants without water. Water would be nice. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't. I don't. But but Wade just keeps on trying. He's trying so hard. You can see how hard Wade is trying. Also, a nice little hidden detail is that you see the bubbles and you see the water bubbles inside Wade that are just popping, knowing the fact that he's basically in the moment of evaporating, like evaporate water evaporation, where water gets a little gets misty and steamy, and then with steam it causes water droplets to drop. You know what I'm saying? You get the whole idea. But well, thankfully Wade was done with that. But on top of that, Wade invites Ember to dinner. So here's your reference to guess who's coming to dinner. So basically, Ember visits Wade's family at a luxury apartment where she uses her fire to fix a broken glass pitcher, impressing Wade's mother Brooke. And Wade's mother Brooke is being voiced by none other than Catherine O'Hara, and and I will say that, and to be honest, I didn't really care for Wade's family at this point. I mean, I didn't care much at all. I mean, well, I was amazed by the idea, and of course the city as well. I mean, I just really didn't care at this point. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I like the idea behind it. I like the design for these characters. I like the design for these characters, so that's good. I feel like we only get very little time on character development, and because we got more time on world building than character development. So obviously enough, Wade and his family all have dinner, and of course, one of Wade's relatives has children. Of course, if you kind of guess, their water children is basically Marco and Polo. Marco Polo, ha ha, very funny if you know what I'm saying. And even one, Marco and Polo almost killed Ember. Is like, what's gonna happen if Ember goes into the water? Will Ember die? Duh, yeah. But of course, Ember and the fan and Wade and the family all have dinner, and then of course they play this crying game where the game is basically not to cry. Don't cry. This is basically this is basically a don't cry game, kind of like a try not to laugh challenge. How about a try not to cry challenge on that? So this is basically a try not to cry challenge that Wade and his family are doing for the game. And obviously, if you know the whole idea of try not to cry, this is basically picking an emotional moment that makes someone cry, and making trying to make someone cry, although they're trying very hard not to cry. And of course, Ember doesn't cry up until the moment where Wade pulls out a moment where Ember draws a fiery tear, and it hits the water and it evaporates like that. And basically, yeah, that's basically it. And Wade wins the game on that. So Wade makes Ember cry by admitting he has feelings for her. And I'll be honest with you, Gail. I'll be honest with you, Wade has feelings for Ember, and I'll be honest with you, it's a very heartwarming moment. Like I do like that moment because it seems as though Wade has found love, and so did Ember too. It's like they have a flame that is sparking right there for the two, like a flame that is sparking for the two of them. Until, unfortunately, the game gets cut off by Gale, who calls Wade and approves Ember's glass seal, thus saving the fireplace from closure. And then, of course, Ember then realizes that she does not want to take over the store. And so that means Ember wants to do something more, which is basically, like a possible internship, because Ember uses her fire power to fix a broken glass pitcher, because during at dinner, one of Wade's relatives broke a glass pitcher and Ember was able to fix it up with her fire power, and I thought it was a pretty cool moment. So then later on, Bernie announces his intention to retire and hand the fireplace to Ember. And the next evening, Wade takes Ember to Garden Central Station to see a type of flower species where it can thrive in any environment, which which this type of flower, I forgot what flower species it was called, but this flower that Amber was going to see, she wasn't able to see it because she was denied seeing in childhood. And and also there was also a bit of a backstory why Ember's parents went went why Ember's parents went to Element City. Like, it's revealed that Bernie and Cinder, their home from Fireworld got destroyed, so they left to make a better life. And that's basically the reason why. Although their home was destroyed by a storm, although most notably it could be a flood, obviously with water, which probably explains his dislike for water. So basically, their home was destroyed. Their home was destroyed, and of course, their home was destroyed. So they immigrate to Element City. But also knowing the fact that Bernie hates water, as I mentioned, and of course with the storm and flood, that was the reason why. Why Bernie decided, like, that's the reason why his home was destroyed by water, which basically explains his dislike for water. But anyway, I gotta wrap this up. Um, With the station now flood. But anyway, at the Garden Central Station to see the flower. With the station now flooded, Gale provides Ember with an air bubble for safety, which is actually pretty cool, while Wade pushes her underwater through the station. Afterward, Ember and Wade realizes that they are able to touch without harming each other and share a dance. But Ember remembers her duty to the fireplace and her family's prejudice against water elements, because elements can't not mix. So you get this whole breakup between Ember and Wade, and while Ember is about to take over the fireplace during a party, Wade appears and declares his love for Ember. And while that's going on, it was also revealed by accident that Ember was the one who caused the broken pipe. Yes, Ember was the one who caused the broken pipe. Ember rejects Wade, though Cinder senses genuine affection, because there was a moment where Cinder brought Wade and Ember inside, because Cinder is basically a sidekick, if you want just to say this, a fiery sidekick, and she realizes that Wade and Ember are basically a match, a loving pair, if you know what I'm saying. But unfortunately, Bernie, who is disappointed, refuses to give Ember the store and calls off his retirement. Also knowing the fact that Bernie banned Wade from his convenience store. So, so yeah, Bernie banned Wade from the convenience store, but obviously, if you know the reason, because obviously Wade is a water element. Obviously, you get the whole idea of prejudice, and this is basically the theme of prejudice and racism that is going on, and you get the whole theme of prejudice, racism, and of course xenophobia that is going on in this movie. And boy, oh boy, did they really go out with these themes. Although I think Zootopia did a much better job with the themes, in my opinion. Sounds like the elements are going to rumble. The elements are going to rumble tonight. It's just basically fire and water. Why about the other elements? We haven't heard. I mean, besides Gale, what about the other elements? I mean, I would have loved to see all the other elements, connect with Ember and Wade. Besides, Gale and Ember's parents. Well, there is a kid. There is a kid who resembles Earth, obviously a tree, who likes Ember, although obviously enough. His name is Claude, who is a young Earth element who has a crush on Ember. Although, although unfortunately, Claude gets rejected by Ember, and that was basically at the beginning of the movie. Obviously, because Claude is a kid, an Earth kid, a tree, if you know what I'm saying. Basically a tree, if you know what I'm saying. Soon after the new seal on the dam breaks and Firetown floods, yes, Firetown floods. Um, Ember, Ember and Wade are basically trapped in a room in the fireplace, protecting this blue flame. But unfortunately, like Ember is trying to stop the flood, so she uses her firepower to seal up the cracks, the leak, to seal up the leaks. Um, Wade starts to evaporate. You see the steam coming out of Wade, and then you see the little bubbles as well that are boiling inside Wade, and it's a very hard moment too because Ember is trying to protect the store, and and Ember and Wade don't want to lose, and Ember doesn't want to lose Wade because Ember now confesses because Ember confesses to Wade that she likes him. So basically, Wade and Ember really love each other. They really do. They both really do. And now and now and then of course, Amber protects the store, and Wade evaporates from the enclosed heat. And after the flood recedes, a grief-stricken Ember confesses to Bernie that she does not want to run the fireplace, and expresses her love for Wade. Realizing that Wade has condensed within the stone ceiling, obviously condensed, yeah, Ember plays the crying game to get him to drift back into his normal form, and it actually works. Like, Ember plays the crying game because she remembers the crying game, and that game works. And that game works to get to get Wade to drift back into his normal form. Well, unfortunately, it's not his muscular form; it's his normal body form because obviously, Wade at the start of the movie, Wade had a bit of a muscular form. It's like, oh man, I'm a bit out of shape, and then of course just ripples around and is like, oh, that's better. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. Did you know that Wade's backstory? One of Wade's backstories is that he got sucked into a sponge. Yeah, Wade got sucked into a sponge when he was little. He was stuck inside that sponge for hours. But anyway, unfortunately, Wade is back to life, and both Ember and Wade embrace and share their first kiss. Months later, Bernie has retired, and the fireplace is now run by his friends. Ember and Wade, now a couple, leave Element City so that Ember can start her internship into the unknown. So, and that's how the film ends. This is basically how the film ends. So basically, Ember and Wade start off their new life into the unknown with Ember doing an internship, and that's how this film. And this is where the film ends. And that's basically it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the film had more focus on world building than characters, which I don't really mind. Which I don't mind. But for the most part, it's all right. It's okay. I mean, it's not as bad as some of the previous Pixar films like Lightyear or even Cars 2, but it's a movie where I say that, but it's a movie where it was late to the party. A movie where it focuses more on world building, movie that focuses on world building and using elements. I mean, you kind of see the connection to Zootopia right there. it was done before with Zootopia. It's like the people at Disney told Pixar just to like make make a Zootopia like Pixar movie. And of course they went with Elemental, which is basically elements. Elements in which is basically elements in a New York style like city. Which is basically Zootopia with a hint of Osmosis Jones and Inside Out. And I will say this, I do like the world idea, the world building idea, and the world building is actually pretty cool. I do like the chemistry, and I do like the chemistry between Ember and Wade throughout the most part. The designs for each character are cool. Are cool. I really appreciate the character designs for this movie. Story wise, I mean the story was actually okay. I mean, in the writing, I feel like I just didn't care for the writing as much. I didn't really care for the other characters as much. I really wish we could have got a little more supporting characters as well, aside from Wade's mom and of course Ember's parents. That's basically about that, and of course Gail as well. That's basically about it. That's basically about it. I get more chemistry from Ember and Wade for the most part, and and I wish the story could have been a little more stronger. But in terms of like plot wise, but obviously of course this is basically Ember and Wade trying to prevent a leak from flooding the fireplace convenience store. But I think for the most part, for the most part, you're just in it for the world building and the chemistry between Ember and Wade, and that's basically about it. But but for the most part, I mean, it is well animated. I will say this. I like the animation style. I really like the animation, and the designs are cool. I like the designs, and I give the animation department props, man. Like 7 years to get this film off the ground. That's a long way. That's a long way. That is time put. That is a well animation takes. And I will say this: the animation takes a lot of time to get to perfection. And I think the animators at Pixar did a fantastic job with this movie and how they were able to get the animation off the ground. Sure, sure, it's not as epic. I mean, the animation itself, while not as epic as Spider-Man or into the Spider-Man Spider-Verse movies or anything, but I still like it. Like the animation is still good. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it. But other than that, that's basically about it. And I know it's nominated for an Oscar, but I don't think it's gonna win. Like the story, I mean, I thought the movie was okay. It was meh, but I don't think it's gonna win an Oscar. I don't think it's gonna win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film. Although I could be wrong, but I I don't really see it winning the Oscar. But I know, but that's just my, but that's just my opinion. But other than that, that will wrap up this up. That will basically that wraps up this episode. I mean, what are your thoughts on Disney Pixar's Elemental? Did you like this movie? Did you thought the movie was okay? Did you not like this movie? I would like to hear your thoughts. But anyway, that's a wrap on this but anyway, that is a wrap on this episode. So thank you all for tuning in to Codo Cinema. I'm your host Bar Codo, aka Codoman. Remember to watch movies and stay positive.